Husband cheated in Vegas and married his coworker, then mocked me by text. I stayed quiet, cut off his money, changed our locks and filed for divorce in one night. At sunrise he begged outside with police nearby. What was he hiding? The text came in at 11:47 p.m., loud enough to shake my phone off the couch cushion. I'd been sitting in the dark living room with a heating pad on my lower back, trying to breathe through the kind of ache you get after a 12-hour shift on concrete floors. The TV was on mute, some late game I wasn't watching. When I looked down, my stomach dropped so hard it felt like I'd missed a step. Just got married in Vegas. To Tessa. Guess you're free now. You were pathetic anyway. I read it twice, then a third time, waiting for my brain to turn it into something else. Tessa. His coworker from the auto parts warehouse. The one he called a buddy when I asked why she was liking every photo of his on Facebook. The one who'd sent a Christmas card from the whole team, with her handwriting all over the envelope. My hands didn't shake. That was the weird part. I felt cold all the way through, like someone poured ice water down my spine. I walked into the kitchen and stared at the sink full of dishes I hadn't had the energy to do. Our apartment was small. 2 bedrooms above a nail salon in a tired strip mall outside Reno. Not the fun kind of Reno, the kind with payday loan shops on every corner. We'd moved there for his job 2 years ago and never got ahead. I kept telling myself it was a bad season. That we were still young enough to climb out. I typed back one word. Cool. Then I set the phone down on the table like it was just another bill. I opened my laptop. The battery was at 9%, so I plugged it into the outlet that only worked if you jiggled it. I went to our bank app first. The checking account had my name on it because his credit was trash when we opened it. Both our paychecks went in there. He had a debit card and 2 credit cards tied to it, and he'd been swiping them like air, like money refilled itself. I froze the cards. One by one. It wasn't dramatic. There were little buttons: lock card, turn off. I hit them and watched each one gray out. My throat still didn't tighten. I just felt steady, like I'd stepped into a version of myself I'd been avoiding. After that, I changed the password to the bank login and the email attached to it. I didn't do it to torture him. I did it because I knew what he'd do if I didn't. He'd come back broke and angry and tell me we were in this together. He'd make it my job to absorb the mess again. I took a screenshot of the text and emailed it to myself and my sister, then deleted it from our shared message thread so he couldn't misunderstood joke his way out later. Next, I pulled the lease from the folder we kept in the junk drawer with expired coupons and old warranties. The place was in my name too because the landlord wouldn't have approved him a loan. There was a clause about changing locks if a tenant felt unsafe. I read it twice, highlighted it, then called an all-night locksmith. I used the little emergency fund I'd been scraping together by skipping lunches and doing DoorDash on weekends. While I waited, I walked through the apartment and grabbed his stuff. Not everything. Just the things that were clearly his. Work boots by the door. 3 pairs of jeans. The ratty hoodie I hated. His shaving kit. His gaming headset. I didn't touch the couch or the coffee maker or any of the shared junk we'd bought at thrift stores. I wasn't destroying a house. I was separating a life. I packed fast, not angry, more like someone cleaning up after a party that went bad. I put it all in 2 black trash bags and set them on the hallway rug. The locksmith showed up a little after 1. He was a quiet guy with a Yankees cap pulled low and a tired face. He didn't ask questions. He just got down on one knee and worked while I stood there in my old sweatpants and watched the little metal pieces go into his toolbox like it was surgery. You want both deadbolts changed? He asked. Yeah. He nodded. You okay in here by yourself? I looked at him. I will be. When he left, I tested the new keys twice. The old ones wouldn't fit anymore. That felt like a click inside my chest. Not happiness. Not yet. But direction. I didn't sleep. I cleaned the kitchen just to keep my hands busy. I listened to the refrigerator hum and the distant bass from the bar next door finally quieting down. Around 3, I sat at the table and started the divorce paperwork online. Our county site was clunky and slow, but I got through it, filling in names and dates and checking the boxes for irreconcilable differences, even though what I really wanted was a box that said, he burned the bridge, and laughed while doing it. At 5:36 a.m. I heard a fist hit the door. Hard enough to make the frame tremble. I froze with a pen in my hand. Marcy, he shouted. Open up. He never called me Marcy unless he wanted something. In my phone I was Babe or M. But when he was cornered, he used my full name like we were in a courtroom. I walked to the peephole. The hallway light was still on its timer, making everything look washed out. He stood there in a wrinkled button-down, hair a mess, eyes wide and red like he hadn't slept either. Beside him were two police officers. One of them was a woman with her hair in a bun, hand resting near her belt. The other was a younger guy, jaw tight. I felt my stomach finally move. Not pity. Alarm. I opened the door on the chain. "What is this?" I asked. He started talking over himself. "Tell them you're okay. Tell them you're fine. They're saying you locked me out and froze the accounts and I can't get my stuff." "Who called them?" I asked. The woman officer looked at him, then at me. "Ma'am, he said you might be having a mental health crisis. That you sent a concerning text." Actually laughed. It came out short and dry. "Concerning text?" I said. "You mean the one where I said cool?" My husband flinched. The young officer looked confused. The woman officer shifted her weight. "We're just here to do a welfare check. Are you safe?" "I'm safe," I said. "He left me. He texted that he married another woman. I filed for divorce. I changed the locks." I pulled my phone from my pocket and held it up. The officer leaned in a little, careful, not grabbing it from me. She read the message. Her face didn't change much, but her eyes went somewhere colder. "He told us a different story," she said. "Of course he did." My husband's voice got desperate. "Marcy, don't do this. It was a mistake. I was drunk. Vegas is a choice," I said. He swallowed, looking at the officers like he needed them to save him. Then he turned toward me again and it hit me how scared he looked. "Not guilty. Please," he said, lowering his voice. "I need to talk to you. Alone. I can't say it in front of them. That sounds like a you problem." The woman officer raised her eyebrows. "Ma'am, you don't have to let him in. But if there's something urgent he needs to say, we can stay nearby." I stared at him through the crack in the door. He looked past me into the apartment like he expected to see his life still waiting there. The bags with his stuff were by the wall, right where I'd left them. I took a breath. I didn't want to be reckless. I also didn't want to be dragged into some private scene where he'd twist things. "Say it now," I said. He shook his head fast. "Not here." "Then no." The young officer stepped forward slightly. "Sir, you're not entitled to enter if she doesn't want you to." My husband's shoulders sagged. He rubbed his face with both hands. When he dropped them, tears were sitting in his eyes, real enough to look dangerous. "She's pregnant," he said. The hallway went silent. "Who?" I asked, even though I knew. "Tessa. She's pregnant. And it might not be mine." That landed like a slap. Not because of the pregnancy. Because of the panic in his voice. The way he said "might not be mine," like it was the real emergency. He kept going, words spilling now that he'd started. "She told me last night after the wedding. She said she didn't know if it was me or someone else from work. I lost it. I told her I needed to come home. She said if I left she'd tell everybody I pressured her into it. She's threatening to call HR. She said she'll say I've been stealing parts from the warehouse if I don't stay with her. None of that is true, Marcy, I swear to God. But she has texts. She has pictures. She could ruin me." So that was what he was hiding. Not shame for what he'd done to me. Fear for himself. The woman officer looked from him to me, waiting for my reaction. I felt something in my chest that wasn't rage anymore. It was clarity, clean and sharp. "You married her anyway," I said. "I didn't know," he pleaded. "I thought it was just a trip." He said she loved me. I was stupid." "You were cruel," I said. "You didn't just leave. You mocked me." His mouth opened, then closed. He had nothing for that. The woman officer spoke gently. "Sir, this is a civil matter. If your coworker is threatening you, you can file a report or talk to your employer. But you can't force your way back into this home." He looked at me like I was the last life raft on a sinking ship. I didn't feel powerful. I felt tired and finally honest about what tired meant. "I'm not covering for you," I said. "Not with money. Not with lies. Not with my name." He shook his head, crying harder now. "I don't have anyone else." "You had me," I said. "And you traded it for a weekend and a punchline." I took the chain off and opened the door wider, but I stayed in the frame. "Your bags are right there. Take them and go." The young officer helped him carry them down the hall. He didn't fight. He just moved like his bones were heavier than they were an hour ago. At the stairwell he turned back once. "Marcy," he said softly. "I am sorry." I believed he was sorry for himself. I didn't answer. When they were gone and the hallway was empty again, I closed the door and leaned against it until my legs stopped buzzing. I stood there a long time listening to my own breathing, steady and strange. Then I walked back to the kitchen. The sun was coming through the blinds in thin bright stripes, lighting up the paperwork spread across my table like a map. I poured coffee that had gone cold, drank it anyway and kept filling out the forms. Later that morning my phone rang. It was my manager from the clinic. "Hey," she said. "You're not scheduled today, but if you want to come in I can use you. Or if you need time, take it. No questions." My throat tightened for the first time all night. Not from pain. From the relief of someone not demanding I be okay. "I'll come in," I said. "I need the hours." "Okay," she said. "And Marcy? You're not alone." I hung up and looked around the quiet apartment. It still had the same cracks in the wall, the same cheap furniture, the same stack of bills waiting for me to figure out how to beat them. Nothing was suddenly easy. But the air felt different, like it belonged to me now. On the way to work I stopped at a gas station and bought a breakfast sandwich I couldn't really afford. I ate it in my car with the windows down, letting the morning wake me up. A kid on a bike rode past, laughing at something invisible. A woman in scrubs walked into the store with a ponytail swinging, coffee in her hand, eyes half closed but moving forward anyway. I watched her and felt my own forward pull start to show up. I don't know what my husband's life looked like after that. I heard through a friend that he tried to get the marriage annulled. That Tessa went loud online about being betrayed. That his job put him on leave while they looked into the stealing accusation she made anyway. None of that was mine to catch anymore. What was mine was the quiet way I started rebuilding. I opened a new savings account and put $10 in it, then another 10 the next payday. I called the credit union and asked about debt counseling without feeling embarrassed. I started walking after dinner not because I was chasing some glow-up, but because my body needed to remember it could go somewhere without fear following it. A month later, when the divorce was finalized, I stood outside the courthouse with my papers in a plain manila envelope. The sky was bright in that washed-out fall way that makes everything look honest. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt like someone who'd survived a house fire and was learning how to live in fresh air. On the courthouse steps, a woman I didn't know held the door open for me. She smiled like nothing in the world was wrong, and it hit me that sometimes kindness is that simple. Sometimes you don't get a big miracle. You get a door held open when you need to walk through it. I breathed in, stepped outside and kept walking. I wasn't free of all my problems. But I was free of the one who kept making them worse. That was enough to start.